Rain clung to the grand windows of Hawthorne Manor like tears pressed to crystal, the sky outside a churning pewter sea. Within, the ballroom glimmered beneath chandeliers and 100 restless eyes, gold-leafed elegance, unable to disguise the sour perfume of scandal. It should have been a morning of celebration, the season's first gathering where whispered promises drifted like perfume among silk gowns. Instead, silence throbbed, taut as a violin string. A voice, cool and merciless, cut through the hush. Misfortune clings to the Whitcomb daughters like ivy to stone. Lady Sabine Crestwood, cousin by blood, serpent by nature, lifted a folded sheet of cream paper. Its seal was broken, venom gleamed in her smile. A letter, discovered most regrettably, detailing impropriety unbecoming any woman of society. Gasps fluttered. She began to read. Elara Whitcomb's fingers tightened around her fan. She wished for clean, cold air, but the room pressed inward, gilded and suffocating. She had endured whispers since her sister Helena's ruin 2 years prior. She had prayed dignity might shield her. Now murmurs swelled like rising smoke, clinging to her skin. Shame by inheritance, guilt without deed. Met under moonlight, gave herself willingly, Sabine Reed, savoring each syllable. Thus proving disgrace is indeed a family trait. Faces turned away, as though she carried contagion. Lady Whitcomb pressed shaking fingers to her lips, Lord Whitcomb's jaw locked, grief and fury chained by pride. Elara's chest tightened, not from guilt, but from the horrifying truth that innocence meant little when rumor tasted sweeter. Her fan slipped, scattering silk petals like something delicate destroyed. Laughter pricked the air. Elara turned and fled, silk hem whispering across marble. The corridor beyond was dim, shadows long as doubt, and the distant thunder outside called to her like refuge. She pushed through the manor's doors and into the storm. Rain kissed her cheeks with merciful chill, washing humiliation from her skin. Her gown clung, pearls loosened, hair unraveled. If she must break, let her break beneath honest rain, not jeweled chandeliers. Footsteps approached, steady and deliberate. She did not turn. She expected her father, or worse, Sabine. Instead, a low voice, lined with authority and ache, spoke. Lady Elara. She faced him. Duke Alastair Ravensbury stood at the base of the steps, coat dark as midnight, posture carved in steel. Whispers named him ruthless in battle and loyal to none but memory. Yet his gaze held no judgment, only quiet stormlight. You should return inside, your grace, she murmured. My presence courts ruin. I would not see your name tangled with mine. Ruin does not frighten me, he replied. Rain traced his cheek, like a reverent hand, and you do not invite it. Warmth pierced her icy despair. Still, trust was fragile porcelain. Kindness cannot mend what has been spoken. Words are wind, he answered, stepping closer. And wind breaks against stone. He extended a gloved hand, not touching, just waiting. Stand. If not for them, then for yourself. Before she could respond, the ballroom doors opened. Voices spilled like vultures scenting wounded flesh. Sabine's laughter rang sharp. How poetic! Our fallen dove finds company in a raven. Alastair did not look at her. A viper hisses when threatened. Sabine faltered. Elara's shame flared anew. She stepped back. I should leave, she whispered, before this worsens. Wheels cracked across gravel. A dark carriage approached, lanterns flickering. Alastair's crest, raven in flight, crown above, gleamed upon the door. He had not merely witnessed her disgrace, he had come for her. The footman descended, umbrella poised. Gossip swelled behind them like a tide hungry to drown her. Her heart pounded. Why would a man carved from power stand here? What glimpse had he seen of her soul? He offered his hand again. Come, he said. His voice held quiet certainty. Let the rain cleanse what gossip stains. Elara stared. Rain blurred the world. Only his steadiness remained clear. But dignity clung to its last thread. If you escort me now, they will never cease whispering. They whisper already, he replied. Let them earn the privilege. She almost laughed, almost wept. You do not know me, your grace. I know cruelty, he answered. and I know courage when I see it. A tremor moved through her. She had never been seen, only judged or pitted. Courage, she breathed, fragile. You endure what would break lesser spirits. His words wrapped her like a cloak warmer than wool. But fear clawed. They will say, I ensnared you. Let them, he murmured. A lie remains wind. The rain softened, as though the storm itself bent to listen. Ilara closed her eyes, drew breath sharp with salt and hope. She was a ruined girl in society's eyes. Yet before her stood a man feared by lords, offering not rescue but respect. Steps sounded behind them. Ladies clustered in the doorway, like jeweled carrion. Sabine's voice cut through rain. Do take her, your grace. Perhaps you enjoy wounded things. Alistair turned then, slow and lethal. I do not collect. I honor. The doorway fell silent. Ilara's heart shook. A choice hovered like fragile glass between them. If she refused, she would return to shadows and cruel laughter. If she accepted, scandal would blaze hotter. But she would not face it alone. Slowly, her fingers lifted, suspended above his waiting hand. Not yet touching, just reaching, trembling with the weight of a world that never let her choose. For the first time since shame shattered her, power trembled beneath her skin. The rain held its breath. And society watched? Then, from within Manor, a voice rose, urgent, breathless, and unmistakably panicked. Footmen rushed, skirts rustled, and a butler stumbled into view, pale as bleached linen. Lord Whitcomb, he cried, has collapsed. Gasps erupted. Ilara froze, hand hovering inches from the Duke's. Duty clawed her back toward the door. Hope held her rooted to him. Between obligation and salvation, her world hung in trembling balance, and the night itself seemed to wait for her choice. In that heartbeat, fate shifted forever. Irrevocably. The rain did not relent for days, as though the heavens themselves mourned the Whitcomb name. Hawthorne Manor grew quiet, save for the gentle footfalls of physicians, the muted weeping of servants, and the whispering guilt that lodged in Ilara's throat. Her father lay in his chamber, pale and trembling, felled more by shame than illness. Ilara sat by his bedside each morning, but his eyes did not meet hers, as if her innocence and his belief in it were ghosts he could no longer grasp. Outside her door, society waited like a hungry pack. When she ventured out, they parted, not in deference, but disgust disguised as pity. Every bow held judgment, every curtsy carried suspicion. Yet amidst the cruelty, something strange and impossible bloomed. Each dawn, just as the world exhaled the night, a white lily arrived. No card, no message, only a single bloom upon a silver tray, delivered by a silent footman who bowed and vanished. White lilies, the flower of purity. A cruel jest, she first thought, but the second morning brought another and the third. Whispers rustled like restless silk among the servants. The Duke, they murmured. If true, it was reckless, if false, dangerous. Still Ilara's heart, fragile as frost, dreaded believing in a kindness not meant for her. The first time she saw him again, she had stolen down to the gardens, seeking breath beyond sorrow. He stood beneath a towering ash, cloaked dark against the pale hush. He was not meant for softness. The contours of his face held war's memory, the rigid nobility of duty carried too long. Yet when he turned to her, she felt the weight in his eyes soften, just enough to steal her breath. You are not well, he said quietly. I am not broken, she replied, though she trembled. No, he answered, as though it were truth carved in stone, only surrounded. Silence stretched, tender as a held breath. She clutched her shawl, afraid hope might make her foolish. Why are you here, your grace? To ensure the world remembers justice, he murmured. Cruelty thrives on quiet. Cruelty thrived on gossip as well. By evening, carriages lined the gates. Invitations had been declined the week before. Now curiosity coaxed the bold to return. Ladies fluttered like jeweled moths, men smooth cuffs and ego, rumor hunted with sharpened teeth. Some pretended sympathy. Others smirked behind fans like executioners savoring spectacle. In the parlor, the air cloyed with perfume and tension. Ilara entered with measured grace, spine straight despite the ache in her chest. Conversations faltered. Eyes clung to her like hooks. Lady Ilara, a baroness cooed, voice dipped in honeyed poison. How tragic! One can only pray truth prevails. And that virtue finds its rightful place, another murmured, gaze sliding to her hem as if expecting evidence of sin. Before shame could swell again, a hush rippled. Alastair Ravensbury had entered, presence like a blade of winter cutting through warmth. He inclined his head to no one, save Ilara, where his bow held softness others had stolen from her world. Whispers erupted like wildfire. Some hailed bravery, others hissed scandal. A lady fanned herself dramatically. He courts ruin. A war hero undone by a fallen girl, a lord scoffed. Ilara's pulse hammered. She wished he had not come. She wished she could command him to stay, two wishes tangled in torment. The hostess, desperate to reclaim decorum, declared a musicale. Musicians lifted bows and notes fluttered like fragile wings. Couples formed, gowns swaying, gentlemen perfect in posture. Society performed civility like armor. Alastair extended his hand. May I? Acceptance would be declaration. Refusal, denial of sanctuary she craved more than air. Her gaze shifted to her father's chamber upstairs, then to the hungry eyes around her. I cannot, she whispered, not while they believe. He did not withdraw. Truth has never been born from fear. She forced a brittle smile. I will not be the cause of your undoing. You are not the cause, he said, voice low. Merely the excuse they hunger for. She stepped back, and the space between them ached. He inclined his head, yielding not to defeat but patience. Yet before he could retreat, a sharp gasp sounded. Lady Sabine, gloved hand pressed to her heart in mock alarm, lifted a lace handkerchief, embroidered not with flowers, but a silver raven. How curious, she announced. A lady's token? Or a trophy? Ilara's blood chilled. The silver thread glimmered unmistakably Alastair's crest. He moved, with quiet swiftness, retrieving it. The room stilled like prey before a predator. A gift, he said, voice cool as steel, offered to honor dignity unjustly wounded. Sabine's laughter tinkled sharp. Dignity? My dear Duke, even innocence wilts when touched by scandal. Are you certain you do not mistake disgrace for grace? Then, with unhurried grace, Alastair turned. His gaze swept the room, a judgment heavier than crown or sword. I mistake nothing. Ilara's throat tightened. His defense rang like a dual challenge. Whispers surged anew, admiration warring with outrage. Before she could speak, a footman appeared, breathless, eyes wide. He bowed, voice trembling. Your Grace, news from Ravensbury Hall. The northern estate, there has been an incident. Alastair's expression shifted, shadow, anger, resolve. He looked to Ilara once, not in farewell, but in promise. Then he strode toward the exit, boots striking marble like fate's drumbeat. As he vanished into the night, hearts raced and gossip ignited like cannon fire. In that suspended moment, her fingers brushed the cool petals of the morning lily she carried, its stem trembling. It felt alive, a fragile sentinel of hope and eager to crush it beneath polished shoes and polished lies. Ilara stood motionless, a lily trembling in a tempest of eyes and judgment. And as whispers rose once more, she felt the world tilt, not from fear, but from the terrible, undeniable truth blossoming in her chest. She no longer feared ruin. She feared losing the one soul who did not see her as ruined at all. Night had deepened into a hush of silver and shadow when Ilara Hawthorne was summoned to the East Drawing Room, a space she had avoided since childhood, for it held echoes of music and innocence now long buried. She walked as though tracing a path between memories and prophecy, her slippers whispering along marble floors, her heart betraying a tremor she could not still. Outside, wind combed through bare branches, and inside the solitary candlelight trembled, as if the very air anticipated conflict and confession. She paused at the door, hand hovering above the brass handle, breath-catching when she heard a low murmured voice, rich, commanding, unmistakably male. The Duke. She had seen him only in glimpses since that night at the ball, his presence both shield and storm, both salvation and threat. And now he waited for her, as though she were something summoned by fate rather than choice. With a breath that felt borrowed from courage rather than owned, she entered. Alistair Ravensbury stood, half-turned toward the window, his silhouette carved by moonlight, tall and severe, the slope of his shoulders carrying burdens whispered about in society, but never confirmed. His eyes lifted and caught hers, dark as winter soil and twice as impossible to read. He did not greet her immediately, and the silence stretched like silk drawn taut. At last he spoke, voice low enough to seem personal and dangerous. "You are trembling." She stiffened, fingers instinctively curling into the folds of her gown. "It is cold, Your Grace." His gaze flickered to the candle, then to the window, where icy rain traced silver paths. "No," he murmured, stepping closer, "it is fear." She felt heat rise to her cheeks, humiliation or righteous pride. She could not tell. "I am accustomed to far worse than midnight summons and interrogations." A faint muscle at his jaw shifted. "I have not summoned you to interrogate you." She lifted her chin, though her breath shivered through her. "Then why am I here?" He studied her, and she felt catalogued, known, and yet veiled. "Because," he said, voice almost a whisper, "there are truths that live in shadows until someone dares to carry a candle toward them." His words unsettled her, for there was tenderness in them, and she had prepared only for coldness and accusation. "Truth," she echoed, her tone brittle. "Society has already written my truth." Her voice wavered despite her pride. "Dishonor. Scandal. Like my sister before me." His gaze sharpened, ice and fire interwoven. "I do not trust society." "Yet you stand among its kings," she retorted. "I stand above its pettiness," he corrected, stepping nearer until she felt the nearness of him like heat through winter wool. She swallowed, her pulse a trapped bird. "Why summon me, then? To test whether the whispers cling? To see if shame stains my skin?" His expression softened unexpectedly. "To ask whether the whispers wounded you." The simplicity of the question undid her. Her throat tightened, memory rising like bitter wine, her sister's tears, her mother's collapse, the cruel delight in others' judgment. She forced composure. Wounds matter little when the world insists on reopening them. The Duke's gaze flickered with something akin to pain. "And yet you stand." "I have no choice." "You do," he whispered. "Defiance is a choice. Silence is a choice. Hope, even when foolish, is a choice." "Hope." She nearly laughed, though the sound would have cracked like fragile porcelain. "Hope abandoned this house long ago." He considered her a long moment, then reached into his coat and withdrew a folded handkerchief, embroidered with a raven, his crest. "This," he said quietly, "was found near the conservatory the night you fled the ball. You left it behind." She flushed. That night had been chaos, whispers rising like vultures. She had run before tears betrayed her in public. "I did not mean to leave it." "I know," he replied, "but I kept it." Her breath caught. The admission felt intimate, unsettling. "Why?" He hesitated, and the firelight gilded the tension in his features. "Because you looked at me that night as though you had seen something human behind the armor society forged upon me." The room held its breath. Ilara felt the floor shift beneath the weight of his confession, though it was no declaration, only a crack in stone. "I saw only a man watching me fall," she whispered. "And yet now you rise," he countered. She shook her head. "Rising and enduring are different things. Both require strength." She stepped back, heart too loud. "Strength is necessity, not glory." "Then necessity has shaped you into steel." She wanted to turn away, to reject the tenderness that threatened to unravel her composure, but instead she stood still, held not by his words, but by the quiet sincerity beneath them. "You frighten me, Your Grace," she said softly. "Good," he replied. "Fear means you still feel." She exhaled sharply as if struck. And feeling is a luxury I cannot afford. Yet you do feel, he murmured, even now. Silence hung, heavy with the truth neither could name. She looked away first, toward the faint reflection of herself in the darkened window, delicate and resolute. If I feel, she whispered, I feel only exhaustion. And longing, he added. She froze. Do not presume, he cut her off with a quiet, aching certainty. It is not presumption. It is recognition. Before she could reply, the door jerked open. A maid burst in breathless, cheeks pale. My lord, there is word from London. A carriage arrived bearing news, urgent and grave. Alistair's expression shifted, steel returning. Speak. The maid faltered. It concerns Lady Hawthorne's sister. Ilara's pulse stopped. A chill spiraled through her. What news? She whispered. The maid bowed her head. They say she has been seen again. Nothing in her quiet, obedient life had prepared her for the coming storm, nor for the way fate would bend, cruel and luminous, around her name. Rain lashed the windows, with as though the night itself sought entry into the turmoil consuming Ilara's thoughts. The revelation of Evelyn's reappearance had shattered whatever fragile composure she possessed, leaving her breath thin and her heart hunting for certainty. Her sister lived, and with life came questions, accusations, dangers, yet unnamed. Ilara stood frozen, one hand braced on the gilded doorframe, the other trembling at her side. Then resolve, sharp and aching, surged through her. Where is she? She whispered, voice raw. Wherever she is, whatever state she is in, I must go. She moved toward the corridor, skirts whispering like ghosts, but Alistair stepped into her path with a steadiness that dared chaos to challenge him. Not alone, he said, his voice quiet yet unyielding. The roads are treacherous, and rumors travel faster than carriage wheels. I will escort you. She searched his face, half expecting arrogance or pity, but found instead a fierce protectiveness that unsettled her more than disdain ever could. You owe me nothing, she breathed. Nothing but honesty, he returned. And my honesty compels me to stand beside you. His vow bore weight, yet weight frightened her. Standing beside me invites ruin, she said bitterly. My name stains whatever it touches. Then let my name stain in your defense, he replied. Let society choke on its own scandal. The force of his conviction struck her still. Thunder cracked above, as though heaven too felt provocation. At last she nodded, not in surrender but in shared defiance. The carriage cut through the storm like a heartbeat, lantern swaying, wheels hissing against soaked earth. Inside, silence reigned but not emptiness. Alistair sat across from her, shadow and certainty woven together. She felt his gaze, though he never imposed it. Her hands lay clasped tightly in her lap, knuckles pale as cream. Do you fear what we will find? He asked softly. Ilara swallowed. I fear what has already been done. He inclined his head. And yet you go. I am her blood, she murmured, and blood does not abandon. They reached a modest inn on the outskirts of the village, lantern light flickering through warped glass panes. Inside, warmth and the scent of herbs greeted them. Evelyn lay upon a narrow bed, pale as winter dawn, lashes trembling, breath fragile. Ilara rushed to her side, sinking to her knees. Evelyn, she whispered, voice breaking like thin ice. Evelyn's eyes fluttered open, clouded with exhaustion, yet unmistakably alive. Lara, she breathed. The nickname pierced Ilara's heart with memory and grief. You came. Ilara brushed trembling curls from her sister's brow. I am here. I will not leave you. Evelyn's lips quivered. They hunt me still. Her voice trembled as shadows flitted across her expression, fear, humiliation, echoes of ruin. The physician stepped forward, grave yet gentle. She arrived weak and terrified. Exhaustion alone might have undone her, had she not been found. Ilara looked to the Duke. His jaw had hardened, anger simmering beneath aristocratic restraint. Who pursues her? He asked. Ilara already knew the answer, felt it like poison pulsing. Lord Whitford. The name settled like a curse. Evelyn whimpered. He holds letters, threats, evidence twisted into chains. Alistair's eyes darkened, fury tempered by calculation. He sought to silence her, he said, to bury scandal beneath coercion. Ilara's voice shook. He would ruin her to mask his own sins. Evelyn clutched her hand weakly. He swore no one would believe me. He said my silence was my only dignity. Ilara leaned close, voice fierce and trembling. You will not be silent anymore. We will protect you. Alistair's gaze softened with something near admiration. Lady Evelyn, you are not without allies. Allies? Evelyn breathed. Allies fall away when shame clings. Ilara held her sister tighter. Not this time. I will stand before every whisper, every pointed gaze. Evelyn's eyes filled with tears. They already condemn you, Lara. Do not drown for my sake. If I drown, Ilara whispered, it will be standing upright. When Evelyn slept again, Ilara rose on unsteady legs and stepped into the corridor. Alistair followed, closing the door with reverent quiet. The hallway glowed golden under lantern light, shadows long, rain pattering against the roof like a ceaseless heartbeat. You would fight the world for her, he said. For truth, she replied. For what remains of my family's honor. Honor is not granted by society, he murmured. It is reclaimed by defiance. She met his gaze luminous despite exhaustion. Then defiance must be my inheritance. And mine, he said, though mine comes gilded and heavy. She studied him, seeing not a title but a man shaped by duty and loneliness. Why risk yourself? He exhaled, voice gentler than she had ever heard it. Because I am weary of silence. Because your courage shames my caution. Because somewhere between rumor and reality, I began to see you not as scandal, but as truth. Her breath faltered. Truth cuts both ways. Then let it cut, he murmured. Let it carve us free. Her heart surged, terrified and yearning. What are you saying? His expression steadied, fierce and vulnerable. I will stand with you. Not as a distant protector, as a man who chooses you over every whisper. She froze. Do not offer what pity inspires. Pity? His voice roughened. No, I offer allegiance. I offer defiance. I offer, he broke off, breath unsteady, something perilously close to devotion. Emotion swelled in her throat, too vast, too bright. I do not know how to accept such devotion, she whispered. He stepped nearer, voice low. Then, let us learn together. But before she could speak, a heavy knock echoed through the inn, harsh and commanding. The innkeeper hurried down the hall, face blanching. My lord, there are men outside, armed, bearing Lord Whitford's crest. The air froze. Ilara's pulse thundered. Alistair's eyes sharpened to steel, voice dropping into fury. Then he will find neither silence nor surrender. Rain hammered the inn's roof like history demanding entrance. Yet Ilara felt a steadiness she had never known. Fear lived in her bones. Yes, but something fiercer rose beside it as she faced the entrance hall. Lanterns flickered. Shadows bent like bowing courtiers to fate. Men waited outside, armed, entitled, certain the world bent for them. But tonight, arrogance would meet resistance, for Alistair stood beside her, cloak loose, gaze carved from iron and conviction. You do not need to face them, he murmured. I do, she replied. Or I am nothing but the story they wrote. Hooves scraped outside. Voices murmured. The door opened, wind hissing in like warning. 3 men entered, Whitford's crest gleaming. Their leader bowed half-heartedly. We are to collect Lady Evelyn Hawthorne, he announced. Lord Whitford demands her return. Demands, the Duke echoed quietly, are the vocabulary of tyrants. The man's gaze slid to Ilara, cruel amusement darkening his eyes. Another Hawthorne clinging to reputation? How quaint. Your sister's misfortune seems inherited. Shame tried to claw upward, but shame found no place to live anymore. She owes Whitford nothing, Ilara said, every syllable steady, least of all obedience. The soldier smirked. Society disagrees. Society, Alistair replied, is a fickle beast easily leashed by truth. His voice cooled. Leave. A pause. A swallow. A retreat. Rain swallowed them again, but danger did not. Ilara sagged, only when the door shut. You make powerful enemies. I choose worthy battles. This is not your battle. Yes, he said simply. It is. By dawn, Whitford himself arrived, storm-soaked and furious. He entered without invitation, boots muddying polished floors. Evelyn rested near the fire in a borrowed gown, fragile as winter blossom. Ilara shielded her with her body as Whitford sneered. Touching, he drawled, ruined sisters clinging to scandal like inheritance. Evelyn flinched. Ilara lifted her chin. Leave. Whitford's smile thinned. Your sister deceived me, then fled. She will answer. She refused you, Ilara corrected, and you hate refusal more than you value truth. Evelyn whispered, he threatened to destroy me. Because she dared deny me, Whitford snapped. No woman rejects a future I offer. Alastair stepped in like divine judgment. She rejected corruption, not opportunity. Whitford scoffed. Do you believe these theatrics redeem them? I believe silence never will, Alastair said. You defend tarnished names? Whitford laughed. You betray your station. I defend innocence, he replied, and I betray nothing except hypocrisy. Whitford's voice sharpened. You risk everything for damaged goods. Ilara trembled, but did not bend. Say what you wish, she said. We know truth. And truth, Alastair murmured, has teeth. He revealed sealed papers, letters, statements, proofs Whitford thought buried. Whitford paled. Impossible. Truth, the Duke replied, does not stay buried when injustice breathes. Panic stained Whitford's facade. He lunged for the documents. Alastair caught his wrist, effortless. You will answer for your crimes. You have no authority. I have enough. Whitford turned vicious on Ilara. And you? Do you believe this rescues you? He will not marry disgrace. Silence cracked like thunder. Alastair faced her fully. No court, no ceremony, just truth saved for when it mattered. I do not defend you to polish my reputation, he said quietly. I stand with you because you make courage look inevitable. The room stilled. Rain softened to a hush as though creation leaned closer. Ilara's heart hurt. Courage comes from necessity, and necessity has made you extraordinary. Whitford scoffed. You cannot crown scandal. I can crown integrity, Alastair replied, and I will. Shock rippled through every breath in the room. He looked at her as though she were dawn after centuries of night. Ilara Hawthorne, will you stand beside me, publicly defiantly forever? Her eyes burned. Why? I am no empire, no polished treasure. You are far rarer, he whispered. You are truth. If I accept, I become target and shield both. We face arrows together, he promised. And if I refuse, I defend you still, he breathed. My devotion is not conditional. Only my joy is. Her pulse steadied like an oath rising. Then yes, she whispered. Yes. Evelyn sobbed softly. The innkeeper gasped. Whitford looked stricken, as though fate had betrayed him personally. You crowned disgrace with a title, he spat. Alastair turned, voice like velvet over steel. No, I crown a woman the world misjudged because cowardice needed a victim. He nodded to his men. Escort Lord Whitford to authorities. Guards stepped forward. Whitford writhed. You damn yourself. No, Ilara said, voice quiet as truth. You damned yourself long before we spoke. He was dragged out into fading rain. Silence followed, thick and tremulous. Alastair turned to her, no longer a duke, not entirely, but a man stripped to truth. You stood unbroken. She exhaled shakily. I stood because someone believed I could. He offered his hand. Not command, request, invitation, promise. She placed her hand in his. Outside, storm clouds parted, revealing the first shy glimmer of sunrise. Evelyn's soft voice carried like prayer. The world will speak of this. Yes, Ilara replied, gaze lifted to dawn. And this time it shall speak truth. Light touched her face. Honor no longer borrowed, but earned. Shame undone. Fate rewritten. Beside her, the Duke's hand remained steady, warm, unyielding. And as morning claimed the sky, Ilara understood. She had not been saved by love alone. She had risen with it,